freedom, strong, confident, powerful, sexy, like I'm flying. These are just some of the words that the ladies are using in our interviews with them and how they feel when they're on their bikes, in the wind, on two wheels, with that power between your legs. My name is Dawn, and I'm your host. Join me while I interview women from all over the world, and they share their adventures with us, their ups, their downs, the friends that are now family, all their stories from these amazing women. I look forward to you joining me and maybe even hearing your story. Reach out to me anytime. If you have a story that you'd like to share, reach out to me, shoot me an email at awomansjourneyontwowheels@gmail.com. Check us out. Hey, it's Dawn, and welcome back to A Woman's Journey on Two Wheels. Today, we are going to hear from Alana, who is a very, very good friend of mine, incredibly badass woman. This is something that I recorded a few years back, and I gotta be honest, I totally procrastinated on it. We recorded this video, and I pulled the audio out of it. So we're gonna do it in a few different episodes. But Alana has been riding for probably nearly as long as I've been alive. She's not going to like that, but it's very close to the truth. Anyway, we're going to talk about her riding, right? It's Woman's Journey on Two Wheels. We're going to talk about her experience and all the bikes that she's been through and the miles she's put on. And we're going to talk about life, get a little personal with her, and some really great stories. So stay tuned. So this is the first interview of a series of women that I'm going to interview.
Decades,
right? And for me and us, like, you know, women, I respect you and admire you, and I'm going to probably cry through this a whole bunch of times.
Right? Don't do that.
Yeah, so we're going to ask Alana some questions. She's going to tell us some stories. And again, this is my first time doing this. And her first time, not first time telling the stories, because we've heard a lot of the stories, but the first time getting it recorded so we can share it with the world and inspire other women.
Mm-hmm. Well, I read an article recently. They said this year at Sturgis there were more women riding their own bikes than ever in history.
That's cool.
You know, and it was hard because when you started out as a woman rider, in the 60s and 70s, you know, the girlfriends and wives didn't like it. You know, the men didn't like it because they felt, you know, this is their community.
It's their thing,
right?
Yeah.
You know, so it's like, can I go too, please? You know, no, okay. You know, but it was really a different thing, and people would react to you because I rode a lot by myself. And people in cars would react to you like,
right.
You see the boobs on that guy? You know?
I know you talked about, like, people cursing or, like, like, back years ago in the 70s when they would see you on the bike and they would...
Definitely. There's two old boys riding in a pickup truck, and the one guy, the passenger, he sees me in the side mirror, and he says something to his buddy. I can see him bending his head. And so he goes like this, like he's stretching, and he puts his arm on the back of the seat, and he turns around and looks at me. And then he says something to his buddy, and the guy looks in the mirror, and he does the same thing, you know, like, oh, look, oh my God, there's a woman. You know, they're always amazed, especially on a big bike, you know.
Yeah.
Now, on the bagger, you see a lot of women on baggers, but it didn't used to be like that. I was working as a machinist, and you could park your bike inside the property there behind the fence. And so everybody's leaving to get out of the shop, and I'm over there kicking the bike, kicking it. You got gas in it? You need some help, little girl? You know, hey, you don't even know how to start it.
Right.
You know, leave me alone.
So I guess we could, like, hop around or whatever. There's so many stories, right? But how about, one of my favorites is when somebody stole your motorcycle?
Yeah, they left town on my bike. I had two panheads. I had a 55 and a 65. Mm-hmm. And I was moving up to Placerville out of the Bay Area. And I could only move one at a time. And so I put 55 at a friend's house a block away from where I live. And I was working as a bartender, and he took it out for a ride, and a car hit him in Pinole and wrecked the bike. And so now I'm in Placerville. It's a couple hours away outside Sacramento, and I have to keep coming down. So I told him, I said, hey, Tony, you always wanted to buy that bike, because he was born in 55, so he wanted a 55. And I said, you always wanted to buy that bike, you just did. You owe me $3,500. Well, he finagled, he got the bike up and running again, and he owed some money, and these guys were going to take the bike, my bike, because he never paid me.
Ah.
And they
gave somebody else money.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So they were going to take my bike as payment. And so he jumped out on the bike and went down to L.A. So I was looking for a Mexican in East L.A. on the Toy Run weekend on a black motorcycle.
And what year was that?
Probably 78. And all I had was a phone number. And I didn't want him to know I was coming.
Right.
So the phone number was in Whittier, Pico Rivera. And so I made up a little sign, Whittier. And I went out to Interstate 5, and I put my thumb out and I hitched a ride. And I had $40. So I get down to L.A., and the guy in the tanker, he sends me in for coffee. And I've got my sleeping bag and my leather coat and everything wrapped up in the sleeping bag. And so I go in and get coffee. That breaks the 20.
Right.
And so I come out, and I see him on the ramp, southbound, with all my stuff. And it's December. And so I'm standing there holding these 2 cups of coffee at 3 in the morning in Bakersfield. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? And so this other trucker comes by and he goes, what are you doing? I said, oh, this guy, he took all my stuff and I have to get to Whittier. And he's like, good grief. So anyway, he gives me a ride into Whittier and he goes, where do you want to go? And I said, I don't know, I guess the police station. Because I had the registration, I had the pink slip, my driver's license. Yeah. And so he drops me off at the police station and I go in. And there's big bulletproof glass over in front of the lady at the desk. And I said, I'm looking for this guy. And I won't say his name. Right. And I said, he's on my bike. And here's my pink slip. Here's my registration. Here's my driver's license. And she goes, is he in a club or something? And I said, no. And I said, he's staying with his mother or his grandmother. And I said, all I have on him is a phone number. And she goes, just a minute. And so she takes the phone number and she's gone for like 20 minutes. And another lady sits at the desk. So the first one comes back outside the bulletproof glass. And she goes, who is this guy? And I told him his name again. And she said, well, this number's listed to a Santos. And I said, yeah, it's probably his grandmother. Yeah. And she said, well, here's the address. And don't ever tell anybody I did that. Just the whole world. Yeah. And so I went across the street to the gas station. I looked the address up, put my thumb out, 2 rides. I pull up, and there's my bike in the driveway right at the house. And it's a funny house. You go up steps to the front door. And so I went, the screen door was closed, but the inside door was open. And I went up the steps, and the little Spanish lady, she goes, ¿Qué pasa? ¿Qué pasa? I said, tell Tony I came for my bike. And it was totally different than when I owned it, because he brought it up the way he wanted it. Right. And so he comes out like, how'd you find me? I go, don't worry about it. My friends are around the corner. And I got on it. It was December 7th. Oh, wow. And when I went over the Tejon Pass, there were snow flurries. And I stopped at the CHP. I asked them if they had a lost and found, like a sweatshirt or something that I could put on. No, we don't have anything, go away. And I got down onto 99 because I couldn't ride on Interstate 5. It was dark, it was cold, so I stopped in a big TA outside of Selma, California, and went inside to get coffee. And so now I'm down to $7 because I had to put gas in the bike.
They started with the 40.
Yeah. And so these truckers started teasing me because it was Saturday night. They were all parked, and they started making fun of me because I was cold and red. And I said, you know what? It's one of you guys that put me in this situation. I could be your sister, your daughter, your friend, you know? And he left me like this. Shame on you.
Right.
And they're like, whoa, okay. So they ordered me some food and stuff. They made some calls trying to find a truck with a Tommy lift so they could put the bike in the back. But everybody was parked for Saturday night. Mm-hmm. So I just stayed up all night. And Sunday morning I got up. I had to jump the bike because the battery was dead. Mm-hmm. And made it back to San Francisco. They gave me $10. And
back
guys.
Back then that was...
Yeah, that was good money.
Yeah.
It was like $30-$40.
How far was the ride? So the ride from where you got the bike back from...
LA to San Francisco.
How long is that?
7 hours.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's a long way. 6 hours. But in a bike, you have to stop all the time. Yeah, that was quite the ride. Oh, yeah, and they gave me a little denim jacket with Honda on the back of it. And I wore that jacket for years. And people go, why are you wearing that Honda thing? You have time for a story? Until I wore it out.
So how old when you first started riding? How old were you?
Probably 20.
Yeah.
73, so 53 years ago.
Wow.
Long time. Yep. And the first thing you got to learn is how to take care of your own stuff. I mean, nowadays I can't do anything because it's all computerized.
Like the newer ones.
Yeah. But the panheads, they were so simple. They were so easy. So I'm adjusting the lifters one time, and I run it up and down the street to make sure I'm happy with the way it is. And cop pulls me over for going back and forth. And back then you had to have headlight, tail light, a horn, a speedometer. I think that's it. You didn't have to have turn signals or anything. And so he's like, all right, let me see your paperwork. So I give him my license, and he goes, okay, does your horn work? And I go, yes, sir. Beep, beep. He goes, headlight, checks that. Tail light, checks that. He says, and your speedometer? And I said, working perfectly. We were stopped, and it said 0. What's he going to do, run alongside and look at it? Working perfect.
So how about the shipwreck story? I never heard this story, which isn't necessarily a motorcycle, but it was one of your lifetime experiences.
Yeah, my dad borrowed a guy's sailboat, and we took it from the east coast of Florida to the Bahamas.
Yeah.
In the meantime, my mom, that's my mom, and myself, I was 10. That's the Hoot Mom. That's me sailing the boat. That's the boat at anchor. So we didn't have a working radio, which...
How old are you then?
10. My mom's from New York City, and she's on an island in the Bahamas. She's 29. She has no idea what's going on. And my dad gives her a little can of gas, and the other mom and the little boy that was with us, the 4 of us go down to the beach. Mm-hmm. And mom's supposed to start a little fire to cook dinner. And she doesn't know what she's doing, and she squirts the gasoline onto the wood, and the fire had already started. So the fire went up a stream of gas, and the can exploded and burned her legs. We leave the next morning. We were on Bimini. We leave the next morning.
And you're on that boat?
Yeah, we're on the Hootman. Uh-huh. And so there's 4 men, 2 women, and 2 kids. And we leave for Cat K or Gun K, one of the 2. And a hurricane comes up, but we don't know about it because we don't have a working radio. And so by the time the hurricane was over with, the Hootman was high and dry.
Oh, wow.
And we have no way to signal anybody to tell them where we are, what's going on. And so we sit there, and you can see Mom.
Oh, yeah.
3rd-degree burn. We're on this island, and we're there for over a week. and we're running out of food and water. And nobody's going by until one day the serenade goes by, and my dad takes a sheet and he's standing on the jetty and he's waving the sheet. And so I remember that the serenade was a huge powerboat, and I remember in the channel against the current like this, and he goes, "Do not follow me, Alana." And he dives off the jetty and he swims out to the boat and he tells them what's going on.
Yeah.
They picked us up in a little rowboat, and they called ahead to Gun K, and they had a helicopter waiting, and they airlifted Mom to Miami. And we left the people on the boat because the sponge fishermen and the regular fishermen, they intercept the radio waves and they'll strip your boat. So it's like, okay, we'll be back.
And that was the years on the picture, right?
Yeah.
1958.
Yeah.
Wow.
10. Yeah. And that plane never called in for us.
He flew right over
Right
here
over.
and
Never called in. And you could see the boat absolutely beach.
Sideways,
Yeah. He never called in.
You guys were there for a week, huh?
Yeah, the
There were
article
movies
says
about shit like that.
Yeah, the article says 10 days. It was a long time. I know that. That's why I don't eat peanut butter, because we were running out of food. All we had was Dinty Moore stew and peanut butter. And I don't eat either one.
So here we're going into her next story. We are sitting looking at some photo albums, and I pointed to a picture, and here's the story behind it.
Sturgis, Hill City. Yeah, California doesn't give you a temporary tag. So the bike was brand new. And so I put like 800 miles on it around town, and then left for Sturgis with another girl, and she's on a Heritage. And so instead of a license plate back there, I had a Get Your Next Harley at Gadara Harley Davidson, Marysville, Yuba City. And so I went through Oregon, Idaho, Wyoming, South Dakota, Montana, back to Idaho, back to Oregon with no license plate.
And when was that?
That's 01.
01?
Yeah, when the bike was brand new.
Cool.
So I had it 90 days and I had 5,200 miles on it.
How many miles are on it now?
Over 200,000.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah. Last time I could read the odometer, because the bike's so old, it's paper, and it's curled up. It was 164,000, and that was like 8 years ago.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I have no idea. A long time. 21 years, but I mean, if you keep them, that's how they get. You know, they get heavy miles.
Yeah. Instead of trading them. And what are all the different bikes that you've had?
I had a 65 with knuckle bottoms. I had a 55. I had a Heritage, red Heritage. I don't have any pictures of that. I might in one of the other albums. And that was a 90, I think. Then I had an FLH STS. It only came in black. And it had a fairing except for the radio. It didn't come with the radio. And that was 13 grand new. And after I fatted it out, I sold it for $2,000 more than it cost new. But it had a brand new top end at 66,000 miles from Harley because the rear basket, rear barrel, what do you call them? The sleeve cracked, and so it had a leak. And then I used that money to buy the 01. So I've had I've had 5 bikes.
And you had that chopper, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the one I gave my son. Yeah. That's a Pro Street Iron Horse, 107. Wicked.
So, and he still has it, right?
Yeah.
Does he have it? And you used to take him to school, right?
Oh, yeah, on the Panhead, on the 65. Yeah. Yep. He had his own little watch cap, and I put him in front of me, because the school was right down the hill, and just give him a ride to school.
Did he like it?
Yeah. Well, we were a motorcycle family. His dad worked on bikes.
Yeah.
That's why we extended the house and everything, so he could work on the bikes at home instead of...
he grew up with it.
Oh, he grew up with it, yeah. We were really close, even though we separated. We were still really close. Mm-hmm. And I'd go over. He'd work on my bike, and I'd clean his house.
That's a good
A trade. Yeah. He got what he needed, and I got what I needed.
Stay tuned